What is going on, Bears fans? I am excited to bring you this live stream. This is a large, attempt at doing sort of just a live Q&A sort of dealio. So we'll see how it goes because I'm excited to give it a shot. I figure since I don't have time to put together a true to form video, the best that I got is that I can pull up my Game Pass subscription right here. You see this, and we can go through the film together to try to answer any questions that you have. Go ahead and let me know if you can see me, frankly, because like I said before, this is the first time that I've ever done anything even close to this, and not to mention, I can finally show off this mic of mine, which it's technically a musician's mic, so to speak, which means that I have to step really close into it. So if you lose me, let me know. In terms of audio, I'm going to do what I can to point myself towards the camera and keep my face in this direction, and you get the idea, because I want to make sure that this whole thing works. Now, like somebody just said in the comments, because to be honest, I think it's hilarious because you mentioned exactly what I wanted to say. We have to go back and talking about the offense again, which I actually think is kind of a bummer because it was fun to be able to talk about the defense while it lasted. And hang on, I've got to plug in my power cable because I'm telling you, we're doing this live, straight up. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so with this, we should be able to dissect and go through pretty much everything that there is to know, I think, about this Raiders game, which is a total bummer, let's be honest, because the Bears were running off of a 3-game win streak. Adrian, I notice you. No worries. I can see the whole comment section. This is actually a really nice little setup we've got going on. But with the Bears were riding a 3-game win streak, they hadn't looked fabulous in any of those games, truth be told. They looked pretty good in Washington, and their defense looked fantastic in Green Bay and in Minnesota, and they also looked really, really good in Washington, for crying out loud. But the offense hasn't looked good pretty much all season long. We haven't seen much from Cordero Patterson in the way of kick returning, and Cohen finally cracked off his first punt return of real note this last week. But of course, in that game, again in London, we started out with a very, very slow first half, entering the second half, losing 0-17 before we clawed our way back, and then we clawed our way back in the third quarter, ended up 21-17, and then slowly lost. So that's obviously a bummer, but I want to make sure that we can go through it, because with a live stream like this, not only can I answer the questions that you actually want to know about, but I can save myself a whole bunch of time editing, and I've got to keep this at least somewhat secret, but basically I'm working on a project that I think that a lot of y'all are going to really like. It's just taking me a lot of my current editing time, so instead we get this live stream. So anyways, Rasta, you actually took the words out of my mouth, more or less. If you want my number one reason that I do think that the Bears lost, and look, a lot of you guys are going to say, you've got to be kidding me. That's what this guy thinks, but I really couldn't stand the decision to go to London as late as the Bears did. I'm a huge, science person. I have a mechanical engineering background, and so the concept of jet lag, circadian rhythm, and a whole lot of just the different smarty things relating to flying over to London that late compared to London, who went much, much, much earlier in the week. I personally think that was one of the reasons, I guess, that the Bears lost. I'm not trying to come up with some crazy set of excuses where the only reason the Bears lost is because they went late to London. That's not really what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I think that it was a big factor because, and you'll see this if we go through the game, or as we go through the game, but basically a whole bunch of different people all played pretty poor football here and there. And so when we lost Akeem Hicks, that was a huge deal. Eddie Goldman had a very solid first half, and as many of you guys have already mentioned in the comments, because you are way ahead of me, and kudos to y'all for that. Eddie Goldman then got chop blocked at least 3 or 4 times, only one of which was called. Certainly seemed to slow him down because in the second half, he gave up a whole lot of ground. And that's obviously a bummer, especially given that then the Raiders were able to just keep churning out those runs. But I wanted to be able to talk about it all. I kind of want to have an open forum because we had some good plays all over the field. Certainly Sherritt McManus's fumble force there in that late stage of the game was great. And then we obviously had terrible plays. I think we personally had the worst interception of the Bears season. And frankly, let's actually go through that. We'll test out this Game Pass interface because for any of you guys who don't have NFL Game Pass, consider this a bit of a preview into what it looks like. But let's go to the coach's film right here. And as you can see, we've got this nice all-22 view. I can't slow it down, which is a bit of a bummer, but we should be able to see the Chase Daniel interception. And personally, again, I think that this is the worst Bears throw that we've seen all season, which is a total bummer given how well he played last week. He certainly had some fabulous quarterbacking plays, but in this case, as you can tell, he never sees the linebacker. Allen Robinson isn't actually even all that open per se. Let's walk through this. So Chase Daniel is looking downfield, and as we can see, if we go behind center right here, he's going to look at Allen Robinson the entire way. And that's before he throws it, which then this ball hits the linebacker in the hands. Now, if we back it up again, I want you to watch the path of this football because it's not even on target if it is going to Allen Robinson, which is a bit of a bummer because that ball, and this is going to be a little hard to, no, let's see. Hopefully it'll show my cursor. But so that ball would probably land right about here by the time Allen's over here, meaning it's really likely to hit the corner's hands more than it is Allen Robinson's hands. And you could say that some of that may very well be because of Chase Daniel and the offensive line sort of caving in, but that's a better story for most other plays. Yes, Kyle Long gives up a whole lot of ground, which you'll see right here, and thank you for hanging with me when it comes to skipping. But truth be told, Chase has enough room to slide left at this moment that this interception's, obviously going to be on him. Not to mention, when we wind it all the way back, you'll see that Trey Burton up here on the top of your screen actually comes pretty open at the time of throw. If Chase Daniel lets it go to Burton instead of towards Robinson, he's probably got a first down. But instead, we have, again, one of the nastier throws of this Bears season, which is a bummer because all I want to be able to talk to y'all about is good play, whether it's good defensive play, good offensive play, so on and so forth. But this was nasty, and yeah, there's not a lot of excuses for it. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of y'all want to talk about the chop blocks, and that definitely happened. I want to show probably, I think, the most egregious example because it's one of the first that I was able to see. So let's go to the coach's film here. This is actually the Raiders' first touchdown of the game, and in it, we're going to see, let's watch the full all-22, if you will, and watch Goldman right here in the middle of the line. You're going to see him engage with that left linebacker and then get cut down by the right guard. Yeah, it's the right guard. And Richie Incognito is the left guard, so kind of interesting that we saw both guards do this, but it happened a lot. So here we are from behind center. We've got Nick Williams and Roy Robertson Harris flanking Goldman to the left and the right, and you're going to see that chop block again, bang, and down goes Goldman, and as you can see, that's the gap he was supposed to fill. Let me back it up again just to make sure it's absolutely certain exactly what this meant for this play. You've got Roy Robertson Harris taking on a single block, and Goldman would be riding with number 61, if you will. Note that that is the hole that Josh Jackson's going to run up for this touchdown. On the chop block, though, that frees the hole. Roquan Smith in the bottom right is going to end up getting blocked, and with that room, he's able to charge right on into the end zone. If you ask me, it's a dirty play. I mean, this is the sort of thing that, oh, hang on, let me make sure that I pull my streaming service a little lower so that now y'all are actually able to see some of what's going on. But anyways, it's a nasty play. I don't think that there's any necessary reason for it. I don't think it's smart by the Raiders. I don't think it's nice by the Raiders. And look, I get that there is a whole bunch of people that are going to be out there. They're going to say things like, hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And I get that. But to be clear, just to make sure we all know the rules, if you, as a lineman, a defensive lineman, are engaged with an offensive lineman in any capacity, you are not allowed to hit the player below the knees. Think of it as if you're engaged high with a player, just like you can see Goldman is right here, that right side player can't go low, which is exactly what we obviously see him do right there. So that's an illegal block from everything I understand. And the main reason that I think it is because it actually gets called later in the game. Now, let me show you another example. This one that I'm about to show isn't going to get called. So in this play, let's just fast forward it to where it needs to be. We're going to see that same chop block again from Richie Incognito. Let me back it up to make sure that everybody's absolutely aware of exactly what's going on. And L Train, I see you. I think any engagement is enough. This one certainly looks like enough to me. And so right here, we're going to see that he's engaged with the center, and then he gets cut down, and thankfully Trevathan's able to step in and make the play there, so that's awfully good. But then, interestingly enough, so Goldman is walking over, and I want you to watch the very end of this play. You're going to need to watch you're going to watch it again. So there's the cut block, and after the play, Goldman's going to get up, and he's going to start walking off to your right. Now, believe it or not, from what I understand, this is Goldman walking over to talk to the officials about how this is exactly what the Raiders are doing. And if you want proof that what we're talking about is illegal, right here, the exact next play, we have the same situation, and in this case, it gets a call. So right here, Goldman is going to engage the center again, and Richie Incognito is going to go for his legs, and this time he doesn't actually hit Goldman. He just gets near Goldman, and that's enough to draw the flag. And I can go ahead and confirm right down here, we don't need to watch the broadcast, that's a penalty on Incognito for a chop block. And they did this probably rough count that I had earlier today, 4 times, and only one of them got called. And look, I get it. That's going to happen sometimes, and I'm not attempting per se to act as if this is the reason the Bears lost, but it is something that happened all throughout the game. Like, you can walk through the film, you can see it. It's a huge bummer. I mean, like, this is how they decided that they were going to go after Eddie Goldman. Let's take a look at any random run, more or less. You can tell that as soon as Akeem Hicks went down, they were going after Goldman as much as they could because Goldman was a huge problem on running downs. Of course, the play that I pick doesn't actually have Goldman in it. Why would it? So, anyways, let's find another one. Here, we'll just watch a couple of these different plays here and there. So let's see, because in the first quarter, Goldman played well. In the second quarter, he slowed down quite a bit, if I could be honest. But let's see, James Washington right here. Coach's film, and here is, of course, again, I pick one without, but we'll watch anyways. This is a common run so that we can see how Khalil Mack, Roy Robertson-Harris, and Roy Robertson-Harris got cut blocked all the time too. Now, this is a cut block and not a chop block. This is something that I think matters because that's legal when only one person does it. But like we talked about with Goldman earlier, 2 people were commonly doing it. And in this case, Roy Robertson-Harris, this is his 4th time getting cut blocked because he got cut blocked all over the place. And so he was able to make a couple of plays, which was awfully nice. But anyways, I'm starting to ramble, and I'm well aware of that. So I would love to get a couple of different questions. I'm going to roll through the comments right now and look for a couple because we've obviously talked about an interception and some cut blocking or some chop blocking. So let's talk, or we could either talk about something positive, we could talk about something negative. Let's just really roll through, and I can answer whatever questions y'all have. So we can talk different offensive topics. We can talk different defensive topics. Pretty much anything that you guys want to hear about, just throw it in the chat and I'll get right to it. This is me stalling through the latency. And while I do, I will talk about a couple of the different throws that I thought were fabulous. So somebody said, somebody wanted to talk about wide receiver routes and whether they got open or not. And I actually have a great play to go through that's going to illustrate exactly what I think about that. And it's this tenuous balance between the offensive line and the offensive line, Chase Daniel holding the ball, and generally getting deep, because it's really, really interesting to me what we're actually going to be able to see. Let's walk through this Chase Daniel sack. So first I'll show you the sack, and you'll see exactly what happened here. So we've got this is the 5-yard sack from the Bears' first drive, where you can see Charles Leno over on the right is going to get beat. Chase Daniel's going to get swallowed. Oh no. Pretty much there ends a Bears drive. So that's a bummer. We'll watch the sack one more time before I show you what I think is the real kicker here. So there we've got Leno getting beat. There Chase Daniel takes the sack. And again, really, really bad in terms of Leno gets pushed, he gets swam, and immediately Chase goes down. Now, here's what I think is really interesting about the play. Let's make sure that we watch it from the all-22 angle so you can see what goes on between the wide receivers and Chase Daniel. So Chase is going to start this play, and he's going to keep his eyes on the linebacker and the safety. He sees the safety is going to bail back with Anthony Miller here in the middle, so he then checks down and he looks towards Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson, as you can see, if you watch where Chase Daniel's eyes are, he's covered not only by the short corner, but also by the corner that's on him and the linebacker. That means that Javon Wims over here, who's running a dig route, and let me know if you can see the cursor, because I really don't know if y'all can, but Javon Wims is going to run in, and he's going to curl inside the field. Now, if you look back to the pocket, you're going to see that Chase Daniel is getting sacked at this point, and that's obviously not good. So let's watch this play again, and what you'll see maybe is going to be what I see. So Chase Daniel realizes that with Robinson covered, that means that Wims is going to break deep. He's got tons and tons and tons of space. Thank you so much, Joe Jarvis, for letting me know that the cursor isn't there. Anyways, so you'll see that Wims down here in the bottom of your screen, he has tons and tons of space as he's running his route. And you may be thinking, Chase Daniel needs to let go of this ball. And he does, probably. Because if he lets it go as Wims breaks free, Wims is going to turn back towards the ball, and he's going to catch it with tons and tons of space, and he can probably run right up that middle of the field that you're seeing right there, with Anthony Miller taking the safety out of the play, so he'll have one man to beat and about 10 yards to do it. So the trouble, if he just quote-unquote throws it to a spot, is that we're talking about Chase Daniel, the Bears' current backup quarterback. He doesn't have a ton of experience not only throwing to guys like Javon Wims, who, while he's thrown to him more in practice than some, he hasn't played enough per se offensive reps in this system to just throw to a spot, because this isn't really a spot route if I have watched it properly. Now, again, what I'm trying to say as I ramble here is that Chase could throw it, but until he sees Javon break, he doesn't quite know the depth that Javon has this at, because I think that he wants to put this ball, instead of along that 40-yard line, I think he wants to put it right along that left side 37-yard hash mark, so a little bit in front of Wims, so that he can carry him into that zone of the field, and he can end up getting some nice yak, as well as a big 2nd and 15 pickup. But, of course, when is because he doesn't throw this ball early, and because he does try to wait that long, Charles Leno, who holds for about 3.25 seconds, ends up giving up a sack that we're all going to go back and we're going to say, well, the offensive line is terrible because they gave up a sack. This is, in my opinion, the tenuous relationship between the Bears trying to strike deep in any offensive fashion at all and their offensive line not holding. In this play, Chase Daniel holds onto the ball for a little bit too long, according to what the line's able to give. And according to most NFL ideologies, 3.25 seconds should be that's about as much time as you need to get the ball off for most plays. Now, if he had obviously been able to hold on for, say, 3.75 seconds, you're talking about being able to make the play downfield, and bang, Bears get a nice big gain in their first drive. They're able to go punch for punch with Oakland, probably get on the board, so on and so forth. But because Leno's not able to hold for that little bit of extra time, this play goes south. Obviously a bummer. So Leno has played some of his worst football of the season, I think, this year. I could go back to the Vikings and I could show you, but it's been a total bummer. In this case, Chase Daniel, I think if he had the ball back, he probably would have slid to his left. Let's go behind center because that's his right. Apologies. If he gets to his right and then stops, look. As I keep watching it, I may be seeing exactly what you're seeing, which is this is going to be a tough play in any circumstance. He's got to get that ball out now if he wants to avoid the sack, or more realistically, Charles Leno, who is being paid pretty handsomely, though again, he's in right around the average zone of left tackles. He's just got to not get beat on this play. This is how plays fail, which totally sucks. And yes, Pusha, I'm with you. Kyle Long has been really terrible all year, and that's a huge bummer. But in general, this is a nasty play, but it's also a play that, in my opinion, shows just how open Bears receivers are commonly getting, because they are. And it's a huge and that to me is, I think, what breaks my heart more than anything else, is that these Bears receivers are able to make plays, and we've seen them make some plays, certainly one that I think I want to go over because, truth be told, it's just a fun play to look at, is the long throw to Anthony Miller that is, let me find it. Oh, here it is. Bears receivers are able to make plays. We see that all over the field. And namely, Allen Robinson, he's been the guy. We saw Taylor Gabriel do some different things well over the last couple of weeks. But in this one, Chase Daniel's going to see Anthony Miller. Anthony's got a true one-on-one down the sidelines, tons of space in that corner over there. And then Daniel lets it go, just truly gives his guy a chance, and Miller's able to come down with it. Jay, I see you asking about Rosen. So Rosen's definitely Rosen, I'll just say this quickly about it while we wait for Chase. Rosen would be a huge turnover kind of play. That would be an I'm giving up on Mitch Trubisky right now. And the more I sit here and look at it, the more that it should have been more evident to me as I watched the Vikings game. It should have been more evident to me as I watched the Redskins game even. But the Bears' offensive line has not been especially good. And while I'm not stoked about Mitch Trubisky's development at the moment, because certainly his ability to read the field has been, let's say, a little bit lacking so far to start the year, trading for Rosen would basically be reneging on Mitch altogether, and it might be a little bit early for that. The trade deadline is at the basic end of October, so we'll have to see what happens there. But back to this play, Daniel lets the ball loose. Miller goes over, and even there it looks like an interception. I mean, that I think is what's crazy to me about this play, is that Chase lets this ball go. The corner has absolutely every single right to it. Frankly, let's just switch back to the broadcast because you can see it better, but he just makes a heck of a play. This is exactly the kind of play that you want second-round picks to make, and I mean, it's awesome. It's just really, really awesome. And obviously that came, the words that come to my head is that came at a cost. It didn't. It's more to say that Miller obviously had some, let's say, troublesome moments where let me find one that I know every Bears fan has on their minds. So let's watch this play right here where Chase makes, I think, one of the better throws of the day by either quarterback to Allen Robinson. So the Bears had just suffered an early down failure, and they let go because I think that somebody took a penalty. Let me go down and check. Yes. Okay, so Allen Robinson had taken an illegal shift penalty, and from here we've got this situation where you got 1st and 10 once again from the 16. He runs the play action, fires up a fade to Allen Robinson, bang, touchdown. Gorgeous throw. There's not a whole lot to talk about there because the whole thing was just awesome. So then right there we see the flag. Now, I want to go back and show this. So Miller runs up. We saw him there at the end. Robinson's celebrating. Miller's celebrating with him. And I think it's that turn right there where he turns around and he says something. And I don't know what it is. But obviously this looks like a weak call on the replay. But whether he's talking to Joyner or talking to the referee, obviously the official doesn't like it because he then confers with somebody and lets the flag go. Now, that's a big penalty, and it's the exact sort of thing that we love the energy. To basically quote Matt Nagy, we we love the energy that Miller's able to bring. I don't think we love the results of what that energy breeds sometimes, in this case, this sort of taunting penalty. Now, again, I think that it's sort of a, let's call it a weak call, because it kind of is. But at the same time, why would you do that when you just took the lead? There's a time and a place for these sorts of things. It's certainly not there. And it sets up, I can go back and show this. It sets up a huge return by the Raiders almost immediately. So that is right here as O'Donnell kicks, and we'll just watch it again, if you will. So O'Donnell here we go. O'Donnell kicks, boom. Ball goes fairly deep, all things told. Gets it to around the 8-yard line, which, of course, is 20-ish yards downfield. And then Miller loses contain. We got a long return the other way, and the Raiders are set up really, really well. And that's, of course, all before Sherrick McManus's heroic end zone stop, which is awesome in and of itself. But either way, these are the sorts of things that you don't want to see from Anthony Miller. I think that the kid is obviously ridiculously talented. I mean, maybe you do or maybe you don't know, but I did a whole breakdown on him in particular. I think he's great. And in this case, and then later in the drive, let me see. I think it's around here somewhere, but there's a play that I can't remember quite where it is, where Miller drops a play that he absolutely has to have, in my opinion. That's a first down play. Doesn't work out. You're going to want that sort of thing back, because it's exactly the sort of thing that kills drives. But Miller basically made mistakes all throughout the game that, while he makes fabulous plays, like the jump over that we saw, he needs to clean things up, because I don't know what quite happened between rookie Miller and sophomore year Miller, but this sophomore season of his has not gone near according to plan of what Bears fans expected, of what he expected, if I could be honest. And it just, I mean, Miller needs to find a way to improve, get his head in the game. I don't know what platitude I could throw at you, but he's got to be better than he has been, because we could use his we could use his talent, and I mean, we could just use the talent that he brings. He's a really solid receiver, and as Mitch can use all the help he can get when the offensive line figures itself out, and we'll see if it does. So somebody asked a little while ago, why are we throwing to J.P. Holtz instead of throwing to Trey Burton? Now, to that, I don't know the exact answer. You'd have to ask all the different people who keep leaving him open. But the play that I'll show is this one. It's what I think was one of the more subtly important plays of the game. And maybe you remember it. We're looking at 2nd and 7 in that drive after Chase Daniel had made that fabulous throw to Allen Robinson. Daniel rolls right, throws to Holtz, and oh boy, that's a nasty drop, don't you think? So let's switch to the coach's film, because it isn't any better, but it shows what I want you to see. So Daniel's going to take this snap, and after he does, he's going to look to his left, if I've got this memorized correctly. And he looks at the middle of the field, and I think he wants Allen Robinson, who's coming over on this short break. You can watch Allen at the bottom of your screen in motion. He's going to then move into the slot right here, and as he takes the snap, that's where Daniel's eyes generally are, that middle of the field zone for both what looks like Miller and Robinson, if I can make their fuzzy little pictures out, because I stare at them enough. So then Daniel rolls to his right, and he sees Holtz, who, as you can see, is wide open. And I think that this is ultimately the reason that that Holtz keeps getting thrown to. It's not for any other reason than the simple one that is, dude's open. And so there he is, wide open, at the bottom of your screen, and Daniel's going to let this go, and frankly, a better throw, because we'll see here, Daniel throws it about as early as he can in this specific play, and of course, we're having some what look like technical difficulties, so let's see if resetting the play will get us to where we need to be, but so when Daniel throws this ball, what you're going to see is that the ball's placement is not fabulous, and instead Holtz is going to have to stop and catch a ball that basically lands in his backside pocket as he's slowing down. And that's not to excuse a drop. It's more to say that ball placement matters, because at the pro level, when these guys, when the balls hit them further behind than they anticipate, you're asking for a tougher catch when this guy knows, Holtz, that he's got to catch the ball behind him and then turn upfield and run. That's all to say that Holtz dropped this. He needs to have it, but it's not quite as simple a drop as it looks on the broadcast view, because that ball definitely lands a little further behind him than I think he wants it. But that's all one person's view. So let me look through this a little bit. We have, so I'm seeing a whole lot of things about Khalil Mack, and I agree, actually. Khalil Mack has a huge issue, if you will, with not showing up in big games, but I don't think it's for the reason that you think. So let's go find almost any Raiders play. The defensive line did not perform particularly well. The Bears got very, very, very little pressure all game, and a lot of that, now this play is certainly a special one, but it actually brings in one topic that we'll talk about Mack in a little bit, but let me rant, because this play points out everything that I hate about the current NFL, and that's intentional grounding. So I can't stand the way that intentional grounding is currently written, because I think that this is exactly the kind of play that needs to be penalized, because Derek Carr throwing to right there, that spot in the field, let me see if I can freeze frame it properly. He's better than that. The guy's an NFL quarterback. He's been doing this for years and years and years in the NFL. If he wants to get a ball near a receiver, he absolutely can. That ball is not to a receiver. And of course, the referees are going to give him credit, because while he's still inside the tackle box, he can kind of do whatever he wants. It's close enough to a receiver. He just missed. But this is where I'm personally amazed that we haven't evolved intentional grounding into a 15-yard foul and a 5-yard foul, very similar to roughing the kicker and running into the kicker. I can't believe that this is something that's allowed to go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10, because Carr did this a couple of times. I think he actually did it on the very next play. So we'll go through and we'll check that. But again, I hate to be the guy who's like, come on, but come on. He absolutely can put that ball closer to a player if he wants to. And frankly, if we're all excited here about if what we want in the NFL is to make this league more exciting, I don't think that there's much more exciting than throwing to a guy knowing that ball is dangerous, because it creates bigger and better plays. The Carr had another one later in the game where it was roughly the same idea. Let's see if it's one of these two. Totally shooting in the dark, so hopefully we get the right play. It is. Here is another one that pretty much does exactly what I think is the problem here. So Carr just flicks that ball, and he gets it. I guess to call it close seems a little bit unfair to me, because Carr is going to see the pressure coming right there from Floyd, and he's just going to flick that ball, and it's going to land nowhere close to the tight end. I think it's way more exciting football if you flick that ball and it actually has to either hit the tight end outright or land in his hands. I don't know how you'd legislate a rule like that. I think you'd have to make it almost entirely subjective, but these are the sorts of plays that, look, if quote-unquote Robert had his way, I would find a way to take this out, because when Aaron Rodgers, Nick Mullins, Derek Carr, tons of other quarterbacks all across the NFL are throwing balls that hit the turf well before anybody actually has the opportunity to make a play on it, I just think that they could do better. We all know that they could do better, and especially when the throws are that short, in general, I would like to see the defense rewarded for making a play. So let's find a long one, because there were a whole bunch of different plays that happened very similar to this. So I hope that this is the kind of play that I'm looking for. But yeah, looks like it. So here's the all-22 view. This is a 15-yard gainer, and I certainly hope that it is the kind of play that I'm looking for. It is. So this one, Personally, look, I can't tell whether Roquan Smith needs to be a little bit faster. You can see him, the bottom side linebacker. He doesn't recognize near quickly enough that there's a guy leaking out to the side. Certainly when the throw comes in, he's too deep. He can't get quite to the sidelines. But more importantly, this illustrates what I think the Raiders did well, which was they attacked the fact that the Bears, and you can see this in their coverage. You can't see my cursor right now, but take a look at the defensive backs on this right-hand side of your screen. But Prince Amukamara, I think that is Clinton Dix and Kyle Fuller are all way off, because one thing that Chuck Pagano likes to do a whole lot, and you can see Kyle Fuller do it here live. So does Prince Amukamara. He takes these cornerbacks and he sets them in a really deep zone. I think the purpose of this is so that the Bears, in this case, they're going to rush with 5 linemen. Anytime that they go and they rush with more guys than one. Nope, look at that. It's a 6-man blitz. The Bears want to cover deep, and they want to try to pressure the quarterback. Now, the Raiders were ready for this, and as you can see, Derek Carr is going to fade back in the pocket and give himself time to just kick this ball out so that his receiver can go make a play and gets a receiver. Yeah, it's a number 11. And then, of course, he races up the sidelines for 15 yards. This is more or less exactly what the Raiders did all game long, for crying out loud. They were able to victimize the fact that the Bears, again, let me fast forward and I will just wait. The Bears constantly were in this exact sort of alignment with blitzing players up front and a whole bunch of deep players back in the right-hand side, or the backfield, and the Raiders were able to punish by either throwing short or they either threw short or they threw to this deep middle of the field. And I'm going to go hunting through real fast just while I ramble on about something else to try to find another example of what I want to talk about. But for those of you who might look at this play and say, what in the world is Prince Amukamara doing? This is sort of an issue where you're just got a whole bunch of zones drawn up. Prince Amukamara has his zone on the side of the field. Obviously, Clinton Dix is in the middle, and Kyle Fuller is in that deep right zone, very similar to where Amukamara is. And in these settings, if you're in the wrong zone and nobody's there, not the wrong zone, but it's more, if you're in a zone that nobody's in, that's just too bad. That's considered better offensive scheme. The defenses basically account for that. And for those of you in the comments who are saying that Roquan Smith is a bust, I wouldn't go there yet, because obviously Roquan has had a very solid rookie season, and he's not been fabulous at all to start his sophomore campaign. But they call it a sophomore slump for a reason, and hopefully whatever personal issue he's dealing with can kind of he can work through that and get better because of it, and kind of return to his rookie form, or the form that he looked at in camp, because he looked very good in camp, and I mean, I saw that with my own eyes. So I feel really good about saying that one. So let's take a look around. Here we've got another long pass. There's a play that I certainly have sticking out of my brain. I just don't know where it is, and I could have probably taken notes, truth be told, and I apologize that I didn't. Oh, yeah. No, here they did it again. So this is, again, you've got Pagano bringing extra pressure, and you're going to see these defenders bail deep, and they just leave this receiver or tight end open on that side, and he's able to pick up a whole bunch of yards. The Raiders called a great game. Chuck Pagano, he has coached really well over the last 4 games. He's been unflinching in bringing pressure, and in this game, he consistently called pressure, and the Raiders just made plans for it, and they also didn't get the Bears also wasn't able to get a whole bunch of pressure by themselves. And yeah, another thing that somebody just pointed out in the comments that I agree with, that is a little bit of a hold on Khalil Mack, which obviously didn't get called, but from everything that I've ever heard from Oakland fans, that's just how it works with Mack. He doesn't get the calls, and the Bears, and as well as Khalil, kind of just need to get accustomed to that, unfortunately. I hate the fact that that's the case, but from what we've seen so far, it certainly seems as if that's how it goes. And then around this fourth quarter, just to finish up on the defense before I want to see if we can get into some positivity, because I feel like so far this has been a fairly negatively tempered stream. And again, thank you so much to everybody who is watching online. I can't believe that y'all are actually spending time with me. Thank you so much. It's been a joy. One other play that I will talk about is, let's find it. It is a Kyle Fuller play I think it is this one. So we all saw it live. This, to me, is exactly the sort of, let's see. Yep, this is the one I'm looking for. So Kyle Fuller's just going to miss this tackle, and this is obviously not great. But it, to me, is why the more I watch this game, the more I look at it, and it's like, if you want a couple of ideas from Robert Schmitz, I think that Pagano got beat, per se, and that's going to happen. It's the way of things. You call 4 great games in a row, eventually your defense is going to give some stuff up. But more importantly, whether it's the flight over from London, whether it is the just the way, whether it's the flight over from London, whether it was Chuck Gruden, everybody calls him Chucky, apologies, John Gruden's game plan or whatnot, everybody made different mistakes. Kyle Fuller, normally a reliable tackler, just gets beat here, and it's these sorts of plays that started to add up, and that's obviously a huge problem. You can't win games with tackles like that. Clinton Dix at one point got taken for a ride. Let's see if we can find one of those here, but there were a whole bunch of different plays throughout this game that certainly near the end of it, certainly on this last drive, I couldn't help but think to myself, wow, I'm amazed that the Bears kept it this close. This is a play that I know stuck out to me a little bit. What you are about to see is a touchdown pass, or at least it should have been a touchdown pass, because take a look at the top of your screen. Wide receiver is going to run around against Clinton Dix, and when that ball comes, look at this, boom. Take a look at all of that space on this slant. If he can get away from Clinton Dix with his foot speed, he's going to be able, this receiver who, truth be told, I know nothing about, is going to take this ball. He's going to run it all the way down the field, and they're going to get the score that they ultimately ended up getting much later. But it's these sorts of plays that when I look at this game, I can't help but think to myself that this is the sort of game that the Bears were going to lose. Obviously, a nasty drop, as you can see right there, and it effectively delayed the inevitable. But the Bears quite literally just made more bad plays than good plays, and that's the sort of thing that I think the Bears needed a gut check game before they go to the bye. Now, there is absolutely no way that they're going to be able to go into this next part of the season where they play New Orleans, they play Dallas later on the year, they play a Chargers team that's a little bit hamstrung, and they can't go into this part of the season thinking that they're hot stuff because they've lost a couple of nasty games. And thank you so much, Daniel. That is amazing. Thank you, Daniel Niles. You are a boss. But for that, honestly, I'll stay on a little bit extra long. So thank you. But let's talk about the peanut punch because, again, Bears made more bad plays than good. That's how you lose. That's how you lose football games. But this play right here by Sherritt McManus, who you're going to see on that bottom side of your screen next to Prince Amukamura, he's being blocked and he runs over with his right hand and like a proper veteran just punches this ball out that you can see from the backside of the line. I mean, for crying out loud, this is a fabulous play. He's getting blocked, wide receiver takes the ball, he just punches that ball right on out, to the ground, and Prince Amukamura is able to pick this thing up. And I mean, this is a huge play for the Bears. This could have easily been a rallying point, but obviously that didn't work out, and that's how it goes. But there were plays all throughout this game. This is the most important way that I could phrase this is there were plays throughout this game. No kidding, Der Spiel. These are the sorts of plays that could have allowed that that they could have allowed the Bears to get back into the game, but they obviously ultimately didn't, and a lot of that's due to offensive issues. Also, Zahid, so I'm seeing that you think that the secondary came into the game a little bit too laxed, but personally, I thought that the biggest thing that ultimately made a difference for the Bears, and I'll try to scroll through this fairly slowly so that you can see it, the Raiders didn't get any of their huge runs up until later on in the game. We can see this deep pass, and I do want to talk about this as a matter of fact, because this is a really good example of exactly what I want to, of exactly what I was mentioning earlier, where Gruden just came in with the right game plan against Chuck Pagano. You're going to see the defensive line generally engaged. The Bears are going to stay fairly short right here, and there's literally one receiver running a route, just one we're talking about. But because the Bears aren't running man at all, they're running a deep zone coverage, you're going to see this receiver is going to get Clinton Dix running backwards, which he should have before you go after Clinton Dix. He's doing what he has to do. He's the safety, he's got to cover the deep end. So then the receiver comes back for the ball, and bang, the one receiver down the field makes the play. We'll watch it again. You can see here that the Bears don't get any push. Take a look at Derek Carr. The guy is wide open in the pocket. He's got all the room that don't you just wish Chase Daniel or Mitch Trubisky had. And again, you got one wide receiver, and he is able to make this play because he just knows what Pagano wants to do. If Pagano and the Bears are able to play a little bit more, per se, more man, I would be very curious as to whether that would have made a difference. That's something that I just, truth be told, don't really know if it was going to in this game. But I do like a lot of the way that the Bears defensive backs match up with the Raiders receivers. They're not fabulous receivers, and obviously our defensive backs are some of the best in the league. That's that they are the best in the league, but there's some of them. And I would have been very curious to see what would have happened if we'd gotten out of a little bit of the zone that we were playing, because obviously the Raiders knew exactly what to do with it. But yeah, back to Akeem Hicks. The Raiders didn't get near as many of their huge runs. Yes, they got 4 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard, but most of these stuff was through the air. They went deep middle. They went short left here for 30 yards total, and then Akeem Hicks gets out, and even though they keep trying to hammer, they get most of their yards through the air still, until they crack off this outside run on 3rd and 1. Let's move to the coach's film right here, and you're gonna see Jacobs gets a pitch which avoids the entire defensive line. That's the key here, is they have been losing the battle with the defensive line, which is pretty much just Goldman, Nick Williams, and whoever else could be there, and they instead go outside. Roquan Smith, or Danny Trevathan, that's Danny, can't quite get off his block, and then Prince Amukamura can't either, and Josh Jacobs is able to turn it into a big gain, which is a bummer. But these things are, let's see. Let's take a look at let's take a look here and see if we can just analyze this live. So Danny Trevathan's the one who ultimately gets blocked, and he gets blocked pretty well by number, I think this is 11. Nah, we'll see. So watch Danny Trevathan, and we'll see who comes and gets him. Because we've got 61, the center. He's going to get just enough of Danny Trevathan that he's not able to make the play. And since Clinton Dix misses the tackle right there, it's able to get turned into a way bigger gain. Not great for the Bears, but at the same time, there's part of me that looks at it and says, hey, this is going to happen at some point. And yes, by the way, I can see the tips, and you have no idea how grateful that I am for them. I just want to make sure that I give you all the proper football analysis that I can in the meantime. Now, speaking of Goldman, because I hear somebody saying or talking about the chop blocking again, in this case, I actually would probably say that if I was a referee, I probably wouldn't call this one. This is just me looking at it, and let's go through it. And hey, John, you know how to motivate me. That's how you do it. So anyways, we've got, I will in a second. In this case, Goldman just barely gets off of number 61, and then he gets cut right underneath, which is not, while it's not a cool block, it certainly goes straight for his knees. And yes, the Raiders were chop blocking all game long, which I know a whole bunch of my lineman friends were not excited about. But in this case, I would make the argument that he is not that he's not near as engaged with the center as others, and that's not as it's not as huge. So a lot of the others that we talked about early in the stream, those were nasty chop blocks. But this one, that's just a cut, and obviously he ends up okay. So to talk about the offensive line, and thank you so much, Amy. That is amazing, huge. So the offensive line, let's just call it what it is. They've not been awesome. And a lot of that's been because of Kyle Long. Now, I could go back and I could show you a whole lot of the different ways that Kyle Long, I'm not going to say something crazy like let the team down, but Kyle Long was not very good in the Washington Redskins game, and he let up a whole lot of the pressure that Trubisky faced. And actually, if you go back and you watch the tape, he led to a whole bunch of the inaccuracies that Trubisky had throughout the game. It's not to make an excuse for Trubisky, but as somebody who went after Trubisky myself in week 1 against Green Bay, that week 3 game, I kept trying to find fault because everybody wanted to find fault in Trubisky, and they wanted to know whether Trubisky had done poorly. But in week 3 against Washington in particular, he played a pretty solid game. So Kyle Long did not play very well, but neither did Charles Leno, neither did Bobby Massey in this game, and certainly Cody Whitehair had a couple of plays that were, they were not very good. And if I had these taken notes, I would probably go back and show you, so apologies to everybody on the stream. Consider this a beginner's, or like this is something to take away for next time, but I was amazed at how different times different people would get beat. Daniel gave up. Let's go through this. We'll talk about James Daniels. So James Daniels, who's never allowed a sack ever in his career, gets beat here in the middle, and it's nasty too. You can see him just get ripped right on through, and Chase Daniel goes down on the very end of the game. So 3 seconds left. Obviously not a lot that you were going to do per se, but in this case, we've got 75, one of only 3 linemen on here, and he just gets a hold of James Daniels' arms, rips him down. The only reason that I'm specifically talking about James Daniels in this case is because he struggled. I mean, let me rephrase that. Everybody struggled. Everybody missed a play here and there. Let me see if I can find. Let's honestly just lottery. Like, we'll take a random play from the first half. Let's go with this David Montgomery right end to just 1 yard. It's a 1 yard gain, and let's take a look at what happens. And we'll just watch the offensive line because when you look at all 4 starters, I'll pause it here. And sorry. You hear me say 4 starters, that's because there's a huge part of me that whether it's Alex Bars, Ted Larson, or Rashad Coward, it will not surprise me at all if Kyle Long is not returning to the Bears offensive line in a starting manner just yet. But so the other 4 starters have been at the minimum consistent and at their maximum outright good. Bobby Massey earned his contract in 2018, certainly had a very good season overall. Charles Leno has been consistently getting better all throughout his career, which is huge. We've got Cody Whitehair that Cody Whitehair earned his money at center. Now he's obviously switched to guard. James Daniel had as good as he had as good as a rookie year as you could have asked for a man to. Thank you so much, Joe Jarvis. And then Kyle Long has obviously struggled just an inordinate amount. It has been insane watching what he's done. So here we've got a running play, and this one, if I remember it correctly, this one's actually going to be on it's going to be on either Leno or Whitehair, but I think it's on Whitehair, and we'll take a look. So, yeah, it's on Whitehair. Take a look at 65 right here, matched up against number 92 or 98. It's one of those two. He's going to get beat right there as he tries to go for, would you believe it, a cut block. and then he doesn't get it, and the run goes absolutely nowhere. On the left side of the line, Kyle Long doesn't come off of his combo block. I think that's his assignment. I'm totally guessing here, to be honest, y'all, because these things don't come with a playbook, but I think that right there he's supposed to move on and take on the linebacker. Now, he doesn't do it, which leaves the linebacker free, and so even though Whitehair's man comes through and he hits David Montgomery right there, had he not, number 50 was going to make the play, and bang. That didn't go well. Let's pick a different play to make sure that we, sustain what we want to see. So, or make sure that we know what we're talking about as we say it, and we're not just cherry picking the occasional play. Let's watch this one right here. John Smith, I know I haven't got the chance to respond to as many of y'all's comments as I want to, but that one right there about anybody know how to stop being a Bears fan, as I watched this game, because I really poured over it, I had the same thought, honestly. So anybody who feels like this has been negative, just know that's fully understandable. But so this play right here is a really interesting play, because it illustrates another point that I guess I ought to just make while I'm here, because it's not about the offensive line. This one's about Tariq Cohen. These plays right here, you got about 5 yards of space with Tariq Cohen and a whole bunch of sidelines to work with. These used to be plays that we could make a whole lot of yardage out of, because Tariq Cohen was able to make somebody miss and use his skills and his speed to get down the field. So in this case, it doesn't happen. Cohen just heads for the sidelines and gets tackled. And, maybe the hit was late out of bounds, but either way, you would have liked for us to have gotten more true yardage out of the play. It doesn't really work out that way. Cohen gets the ball again. This is all the space that we've got. And yes, Meatwad, I'm right there with you. Montgomery's on my fantasy team, and he's not starting. I just can't start him right now. The Bears' offensive line is just not getting enough. They're just not getting enough push, and Montgomery's certainly not. I'm going to make a crazy claim, and that's that Montgomery does a whole lot of things well, and he does a whole lot of things right. And there are a couple of different ways that I have yet to understand whether Montgomery is doing them right or wrong, but his receiving has been awesome. That's been a huge bonus. But back to Tariq Cohen, he's got a ton of space to work with on the sidelines. He breaks down, he gets tackled. Not good. We could go through and we could look at more Tariq Cohen stuff, but if any of y'all have the time to do it and you go take a watch, what you'll notice is that there's just not quite as much juice in the way that Tariq Cohen's been working. Here's another play that looks like it's short to Cohen. Can't remember what this is, so let's take a look here, see if we see anything. Oh, yeah, this. Another example. Ooh, that was not supposed to happen. So here is basically just a run to Cohen with obviously Montgomery in the backfield. He has the lane that you hope for him to get. He's got 97 chasing him, but obviously he's got Tariq Cohen's extraordinarily fast, so you wouldn't expect that to be a problem. And he's got 2 blockers in front of him, one Montgomery and one, I think that's Burton. And while Burton doesn't hold his block perfectly, you would hope that Cohen's able to do a bit more work with this than just 1 yard. And yes, I'm well aware that I'm kind of picking a random play and calling it Cohen's fault. It's more to say that these sorts of plays, and I posit it roughly the same place, is these used to be huge plays for the Bears. These used to be a staple of the Nagy offense, where they took Tariq Cohen, they tried to get him out into space. They do the same thing with Taylor Gabriel, and they just try to let him make a play. And in these cases, it doesn't work. Burton doesn't make a perfect block, no, but these are the sorts of plays that Nagy's trying to run, and if you've ever thought about it from the coaching standpoint, these are the sorts of plays where Matt Nagy's trying to get away from his offensive line. He's trying to use his offensive line just to sell the play going to the left and then allow 2 totally different guys to go make a play. And yeah, Ahmed, maybe the league has caught on with guys like Cohen. You certainly would hope that their speed and their elusiveness in general would be able to effectively allow them to defy the league, where whenever they get space, they're dangerous. But in this case, I look at this play and I think to myself, asking Burton to hold a better block than that seems a little ridiculous. David Montgomery doesn't make a perfect block, and again, I'm kind of picking a weird one, but in general, I guess the best thing that I could say is that the Bears don't seem to have a ton of guys that are truly stepping up and making massive, massive plays for us, except for one. And I will talk about him. And I hope that I'll be able to. But I want to talk to you about Allen Robinson because this guy has been amazing. Nothing short of special. So much fun to watch. The play that I want to talk about, if we're going to talk about Allen Robinson, is I think one of the more impressive that I've seen the receiver make at all. We're going to watch this from the broadcast angle because I think it's easier to see, to be honest. That is this play from the end zone here. A gutty call by Matt Nagy to even just sit back in the pocket and have his guy throw deep, and boom, this catch right here. I mean, Daniel lays the ball out and allows his guy to go make a play, which is great. That's what we want our quarterback to do, to be honest. And then Allen Robinson does something that I think maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. But what's amazing to me is the way that right here, while he's in the air, he gets this left foot down right there and his right foot down right there. He knows full and well that he has got to get his feet down, and he, while he's basically horizontal, he gets those feet inbounds, and now it's a catch. That is a really, really killer play. And if we take a look at the all-22, just because I know y'all love breakdowns, we've got a snap back, and Daniel is reading the middle linebacker because I think he wants to go to Robinson. And then he just lets this thing go. And when he lets it go, let's make sure that we watch, because I think this is always important to do when you're watching quarterbacks. We're going to pause this right as he releases the ball. Allen hasn't even beaten his guy yet. Chase just knows that he's going to give his dude a shot down the sidelines. And then Robinson, of course, not only spots the ball, but hauls it in. I mean, it's a heck of a play. So much fun to watch. And credit to the offensive line who give him enough time to do it. This is what I think makes evaluating the offensive line so hard. It's not perfect. No, this pocket's not fabulous, but Massey's able to keep his guy from touching Chase Daniel for a good bit. Leno controls his guy enough. Kyle Long, even, who did not have a fantastic game, he keeps enough hold on his guy to keep them off of it, and then boom, he makes a play, takes a huge hit, so on and so forth. That's what I think is so hard about the offensive line. I'm going to just go ahead and pick out a random play, and we can watch one. Hopefully, it's a good one. But the Bears' offensive line had a whole bunch of different points. Ooh, this is a good one to talk about. The roughing the passer penalty, where, of course, the offensive line did not play well. They had multiple different plays where things went south for the Bears' offensive line and therefore inhibited the play. In this case, boom, can you tell what went wrong? I'm sure you can. So Kyle Long gets beat really badly from the guard spot, which is surprising because the whole point of the guard spot, if you look at where he is between the center and the tackle, is that he shouldn't have enough room to do this, but oh my goodness, Kyle gives away that right-hand side, and this defensive lineman comes straight at Chase Daniel. Not very good at all. And I mean, we had points like that because the trouble with evaluating an offensive line is that an offensive lineman can basically play well for 80% of his snaps and then play really badly for 20%. That's not what Kyle Long did, but we can get there another time. That can happen with these linemen, and your line can still look terrible because those plays didn't work. Because if everybody plays well 80% of the time, but somebody blows a different play, I mean, look at this. Massey's got control of his guy. Leno's got control of his guy. Whitehair and Daniel have their side handled, but Long effectively allows this play to explode, and because of that, Daniel throws what should have been a really gnarly interception. I don't know what you think of the roughing the passer call. I think it's a good call in terms of today's NFL because, as you can see, he did land on Chase Daniel, but that play can't happen, and it's not necessarily Chase's fault. Kyle Long got destroyed on that play, and you want a more mobile quarterback like Trubisky who can get out of those jams, or at least give you a shot, but that's the sort of thing that... to anybody in the comment section right now, that's my wife, and she has to hear this when y'all don't have the chance to. And boy, oh boy, do I do this to her a lot. So you go ahead and she is one of the biggest reasons I'm able to do this. Love you, honey. I know you're in the next room over. But so At some point, I got to close this stream up. We can talk about the last play because I feel like it's been discussed to death, but I know that some of y'all don't feel like it has been. So this is the Miller-Daniel play, and before we talk about the Miller-Daniel interception, I will go ahead and just make a final statement about this offensive line. I think I already kind of mentioned this before, but I'll just go ahead and make it as clear as I can. I think that Rashad Coward fits Kyle Long's mold really well. Let's remember, Kyle Long, when he was a first-round draft pick, he was a strong, mauling offensive lineman who they put at guard because he didn't quite have the technique to play tackle. And he was, again, extraordinarily strong, very athletic, extremely aggressive, so you could put him in at guard, and he could just go as hard as he could, make big plays. In that same vein, Rashad Coward, and I'd pull up the film if I had this organized. Again, apologies that I don't. But Rashad Coward is a physical offensive lineman. He's big. He's got extraordinarily long arms, and he's very, very aggressive. You can go take a look at what he does against the Vikings. He's able to run out there and make big, big, big plays. And by that, I more mean that he just hits his guy as hard as he can. Every other starter on the offensive line has so much more benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. Bobby Massey's been a solid right tackle. Yes, he gives up the occasional play, but we wouldn't be noticing if the rest of the linebacker or if the rest of the offensive line wasn't playing so poorly. Charles Leno has obviously not been good. That's not even up for debate. But unlike Kyle Long, who physically looks like he just does not have it anymore, and I feel so bad for the guy because the last thing I want to do, and maybe you've been able to pick this up from the way that I talk about players during videos, last thing I want to do is I don't want to come out and criticize somebody. Last thing I want to say is, this guy sucks. That guy's not been playing well. Blah, 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 blah. Because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not exactly a football player myself. And these guys are going out there. They're putting something about putting bodies on the line. More to say that they're playing a very physical game. And at some point, if you are a half step slower or you're that little bit less violent, you're going to end up just not being there, and that's where Kyle Long is. I don't even know if he's starting NFL level at this point. He's just getting beat so badly. He so clearly doesn't have it, and I can't stand watching that for him, and I think that he could be... I think he's worth replacing. I think he probably knows it. A friend of mine pointed out that Kyle Long hasn't tweeted since September 23rd, and for any of you that like to think about gossip and things like that, Kyle Long... I mean, that guy's on social media all the time. So if he's not on it anymore, I just tend to think that he knows what's going on. It would not surprise me if he will not be the starter coming back from the bye. Leno, on the other hand, he's been getting better all year. Dude's only 27 years old. While he's had a really terrible game against the Vikings that, if I could be honest, I buried a lot of the plays that he had poorly because I had saved about 8 bad plays, 4 against the run, 4 against the pass. But he did not play well against the Vikings. He didn't play especially well today, though one of his sacks was obviously caught on camera, per se. And I look at it and I think that we give him more chances. Not only is his contract stretched out until 2021, 2022, maybe even 2023. I need to get a cap expert on that. But he has played well enough, I think, to earn the benefit of the doubt for these first 5 games. Cody Whitehair has obviously been... Cody Whitehair has been a good rookie for his first 4 years, if you will. To call that a rookie is a little bit of a stretch, but you understand. He's been a good young player, physical. The transition to left guard shouldn't be this hard. So it's more to say that he should be able to get the hang of it, certainly over the bye week. This will be a nice test for not only Nagy in general, getting the guys ready, but also Harry Highstand and each particular offensive lineman. James Daniels looked great last year, and his true position is center, and he's 21 years old. That guy has as much benefit of the doubt as he needs. He could get better, for sure, certainly. Again, this Bears offensive line has not been fantastic and been kind of a letdown so far in a season where I know a lot of people, like me, thought that they were going to be above average, and they haven't been. But it's Long that sticks out to me, unfortunately. All the others, they've missed their plays here and there. You have to burn the tape of Week 1 Green Bay from the offensive line standpoint because they were just so bad. And the more people that I talk to, the more tell me that preseason reps matter for the offensive line. I know that might sound weird, certainly. I know there are a lot of people that are banging the table about the preseason, and I completely understand that attitude, that whether they should play or they shouldn't play, in your opinion, but it sure sounds to me like the offensive line needs those reps. And so in week 1, we saw what true rusty offensive linemen looked like, and it looked like it. Since then, they were better than that, but they still haven't been good. And it's been Long that stood out to me. He seems to get more wrong than he gets right, which is a huge... Again, it breaks my heart to watch because I know that the guy cares. He obviously loves football. I don't think he wants to be done, but it sure looks like his body is. But anyways, let's get into our final play that we'll break down. But I guess long and short, just to circle back, make sure I get this right. Again, thanks so much for just listening to me. I think that the offensive line... I have more faith in them to get it together than I have for different players doing different things across the team. It's not that I think that they're all... it's not that they've done anything in particular that has given me that justification. It's more to say that with the offensive line switch that we've had and Long playing poorly, I think it's going to exacerbate everybody else's failures. Leno obviously needs to get it together. He stood out to me. Bobby Massey's made his fair share of mistakes, and then Whitehair and Daniels haven't been perfect, but if you replace Long with Coward, certainly that Minnesota offensive line experience went better than any of the others have, and I think that whether it's Larson or Coward or Bars, though I would be surprised if it was Bars because of the first two options, Larson being the professional interior offensive lineman and Coward being your potential project replacement, I would expect one of them to get the shot before anybody else, and that's more than fine. Hopefully that happens. I would be really surprised if Long plays, but if he does, you can count on that right guard spot letting us down a little bit, and I hate saying that. But let's get into this last play. So this is, if any of y'all have or haven't noticed, this is the play to Miller, where Daniel throws the interception that effectively ends the game. I was on my way to a wedding while watching this, and watching it broke my heart. Because the Bears looked like their offense was leading them down the field. I'm sure plenty of you, of course the screen goes black. Let me get this back up. I'm sure plenty of you, like me, were watching and saying, oh my goodness, they're driving. Here we go, Bears. This is the game where the offense proves that they can hang with the big boys and make plays when we need them to, which is really, really terrible that it ended the way that it did. But so Daniel makes his adjustments at the line. You're going to be wanting to watch Miller in the slot as well as the other two at the bottom, because if you haven't figured it out, most reads are half-field reads in the position of quarterback. I'll just go ahead and say that now. So we've got Daniel. He's looking at this right-hand side of the field. He's watching Miller. He's watching Allen Robinson. He's watching Javon Wims and their guys respectively. And he takes a look, and I think, long and short, he throws this play right here. It's obviously really terrible, especially in the All-22, because to go ahead and watch it through one more time before we really break it down, where this ball lands compared to where Miller is about 10 yards of difference. And as we know from what Matt Nagy said after the game, this is a incorrect route run by Miller. But believe it or not, if I was going to assign blame to this play, it's on Chase Daniel. And here's why. So when Daniel takes the snap, he looks to his right. And what he's anticipating to see is something more like what we see along the top, where Trey Burton's getting covered he's getting covered in man by his defender. And I think he expected to see that from Javon Wims and Allen Robinson, such that Anthony Miller would, if they stayed tight like we saw with Allen Robinson, and people commonly do this on this sort of play, he would have room in that pocket where Chase ends up throwing the ball. Here's the thing, though. Watch Wims' corner. Does he look like he's in man? Because he doesn't to me. Then when Chase lets this ball loose, Miller is about to run through his defender. And if he's even, he's leaving, obviously. But the most important key to this play is that Javon Wims' guy isn't on Javon Wims at all. So Chase throws this ball in a tight pocket, but the guy who makes the play on it, as you can see, is Wims' corner. It's not Miller's corner. And that's where I think Chase got this wrong. He never saw that outside corner it's not that he never had any intention of covering Wims. It's more that he is on this play expecting Wims to run a go route. And if he doesn't run a go route, he'll deal with the rest later. Meaning that according to what the Raiders defense is willing to give up, if Chase hitch towards Miller and throws towards Wims, he's going to get this corner stepping back a little bit. Wims is going to catch it. He's going to turn it into probably a 4 or 5 yard gain. I mean, it's not going to be a huge gain in this case, but it'll be something. Instead, Daniel, again, doesn't see that neither Robinson's corner nor Wims's corner is actually playing him. And let me make sure that that's correct. But the key here is Wims's cornerback. And as he ends up, yes, okay, so we see a switch there. I hope you caught it. This is the first time that I've seen it, but it makes all the sense in the world. Because the Raiders are playing what is effectively a zone that looks like man instead of true man coverage, Chase reads that it's man coverage because of this play right there, more than likely, where Miller's in this guy's zone. He runs through the zone, gets picked up by Allen Robinson's man, and Wims's man already starts bailing back to go get that throw. Boom, it's caught. Chase never should have thrown this ball. Never. Not in a million years. This is the improper play. And Miller freelancing on his routes, which, truth be told, I could do an entire special just on Anthony Miller and how often he does freelance routes similar to this. It's not great for quarterbacks that like knowing where their guys are going to be. But again, this play cannot get thrown by Chase Daniel. It's ultimately on him, and the guy's a backup. Look, I am a personal believer that your backup quarterback is going to make mistakes. Chase Daniel, while he operates like a pretty solid quarterback and certainly made some big plays against the Vikings that I was happy to be able to highlight because they were just great quarterbacking plays, this is an example of a flat-out mistake, much like the interception that we talked about to kick off the stream effectively. This is a pocket that it's not a great pocket. Certainly we can see that I believe that that's James Daniels that's given up a lot of room in the front of the pocket, but Chase is responsible for every ball that he lets go that lands in somebody else's hands. Yeah, it looks like it's James Daniels and Cody Whitehair that, while they don't give up the sack, they are basically double blocking this guy right over the nose, and he ends up creating some heavy pressure. Yeah, that's nasty. But so as he lets this ball go, it just can't go there. Totally ices the game, and that is it. While I could continue talking about different things about the Raiders game, the ultimate take that I had as I walked through this in an hour and 20 minutes, I guess, is that this is the second burn the tape game in 5 games. That's not good. It's not good at all. Certainly, when you start saying to yourself that you have to burn that game and you have to burn that game, you have to ask yourself what your team really is. And in this case, I do think that they're better than this. The more that I watch this game, the more that I keep seeing a team that absolutely could bounce back in more ways than one. The offensive line could improve. The receivers could step up. Mitch could come back and he could play with his head locked in, if you will, and he could make better reads. And that's all great. And I certainly hope that happens. But if we see another performance like this, we're going to have to start asking ourselves what this team really is. I personally think that this Bears team has places that it can go. But a lot of that is going to make it's all going to depend basically on not only how well the offensive line plays, but how well the quarterback plays. I will at some point, first of all, did y'all like this stream? Because if you did, I can actually cover some of the topics in greater detail that I know I've wanted to, because in my opinion, I think Matt Nagy has made quite a few mistakes. There are a whole lot of different plays that I could look at and I could say, okay, Matt, what in the world are you doing there? I don't love his running scheme. I don't think that he gets outside the tackles enough, given that you don't like what your offensive line is doing. But in a game like this, I thought that Matt Nagy, one thing he does very well is he's able to commonly shorten the field. He is able to, let's find another play. Let's see if we can. There are a couple different plays that he will run that key off of the same idea. Let's see. Ooh, I know what I'm looking for. It's just a matter of finding it. So let's see. We're looking for Cohen for 6 yards. Cohen, 6 yards. Maybe it's down here. Yes, it is. Perfect. Okay, so let's check these 2 plays out. 2 plays. This is key. So we can watch them from the broadcast view. Doesn't really matter. So Chase Daniel takes the snap. He's looking right. We've got Cohen kicked out to this right or left-hand side, and Allen Robinson sitting tight over the middle. Linebacker leaves him. Bang. Throw goes to Robinson. So on and so forth. And we're gonna see Allen Robinson pick up 4 yards. Really simple play. 1st and 10. Hooray! Now it's 2nd and 6. Right? Not a lot to think about. He reads the linebacker. He lets this thing fly. Robinson turns, picks up 4 or 5 yards, something like that. The next play, yes, it's the literal next play. And here we see. I want to show you that while the defense calls a blitz this time around, Matt Nagy runs effectively the same action, and it gets really good things going. So you'll see Cohen kicking out to that side again. Robinson is running the same dig, though this time it's a little bit deeper, and this time the correct read is to go to Cohen, who picks up 6 yards, picks up a 1st down. The point that I'm making when I talk about this is that Matt Nagy has these nice little plays here and there that they function very similarly to each other, and they allow the quarterback to diagnose the defense, get the ball out, and if he does it correct, pick up yardage. That's something that Matt Nagy does really well. He can get receivers open. This isn't quite like the Tressman era where we saw pretty much everybody covered. In a lot of these plays, what we're seeing is a real lack of quarterbacks that are able to extend plays and make these things work. We don't see near as many, though I'm sure you guys have seen plenty happen against us over the years. We don't see any of those 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 second plays where the quarterback buys time in the pocket or they get outside and they direct traffic. We don't see any of the freelancing plays where Taylor Gabriel, Anthony Miller, or any of the other receivers that we have, and I don't mention Allen Robinson because goodness knows he's doing enough, that are able to get open and go make a play. Everything has to work within the confines of the offense, and that's just not how things are always supposed to be in the NFL. You can't ask a coach to scheme somebody open on every single play. You can ask a coach to get guys in good position, but you can't ask him to scheme somebody open. When it comes to the passing game, me personally, I'm pretty confident in Matt Nagy. I think that he's doing a lot of things right. I keep seeing guys open on different plays, that the offensive line, they didn't hold for 3 minutes, or they didn't hold for 3 seconds. They didn't hold for... and thank you, JJ. That's good to know. They didn't hold for 3 seconds. They didn't hold for 4 seconds. The common NFL expectation is that you're able to hold for 3 seconds. So there are some of these that, of course, the offensive line could just, they could do better, but you are asking a lot. But when it comes to Coach Nagy, I would love to see him find ways to get the running game going. I know that's a very Chicago thing to say, but seriously, it's not helping at all right now. In fact, if from the statistics that I've seen, we are currently, there's a statistic out there called EPA, expected points added per play. And the Bears are currently getting negative 0.13 EPA per run play compared to 0.08, compared to positive 0.08 EPA per pass play. The point being that the Bears are making some headway in their passing game. That's 17th in the league, but at least it's positive. Their running game is doing more negative for them than it is positive. And we probably all knew that, if we're really honest with ourselves, but to see the stats bear it out really hurts. I've been watching a whole lot of 2005, 2006 Chicago Bears recently. Again, can't really tell you why. But what I can say is that the offensive lines in that era, oh my goodness, Olin Cruz, Roberto Garza, Ruben Brown, those guys were smoking people, and they were creating tons of room for the various running backs. I would love to see the Bears find ways to get more room so that we could have a running attack that is more akin to what we've seen throughout the rest of the NFL. It's going to help the quarterbacks. It's going to help the passing game. And again, I really like a lot of the concepts that Matt Nagy's bringing. He seems like he can lead the team really well, to be completely honest with all of y'all. The jury's always going to be out on these coaches until they really prove to us what they are. This is a huge cornerstone moment for the Bears coach, the young as he is. You are now 3-2 in a season where Chicago had built you up to be heroes, so to speak. So this is going to be an emotional moment as he goes up against the New Orleans Saints at home, and frankly has a pretty tough stretch of schedule coming up. But if he can rally these Bears together and they can find their way to fight into the playoffs, I think we'll be a lot more confident about this team at that point, or at least about our coach. The point being, I know a lot of y'all want conclusions, per se, And we're 5 weeks into the season. We can't give conclusions. There's 16 games for a reason. But at this moment, I still like a lot of what I'm seeing from Matt Nagy. I want to see a little bit more from different points of the team. I want to see a game where everything executes. I want to know what that would look like, because I look back at a game like Washington, and I'm like, that was a coaching clinic. I mean, Matt Nagy was calling everything open. That was amazing. So he obviously can. You have all seen maybe my breakdown on his drive against the Seattle Seahawks. I thought that was masterful. But in general, I look at a lot of what Nagy's brought, and I think that he's bringing more positive than he is negative. He may not be the greatest coach in the NFL. We'll see. A lot of that will depend on how things go from here. But we should be able to get more and more answers as this season continues. That is about all I have time for. Truth be told, I could sit here and I could answer y'all's questions for like an hour and a half, or an hour and a half longer, because I already just did for an hour and a half. But at some point, I have to end the stream. Please, thank you to absolutely anybody who donated. That is amazing, truly incredible. And I can't believe that you would give me money. That is just amazing. And it really is the sort of thing that if you continue to, in any capacity, and I don't want to come across like somebody who's begging for money, but if you continue to do so, this is the sort of thing that's going to help me to do more things like this more often. I would love to do this professionally at some point, but we'll see how it goes. Certainly hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you thought that there were points of this stream that are worth sharing, kick it around to your friends, so on and so forth. But outside of that, I mean, check out my work on Windy City Gridiron. If you like what I have to say, I do a post-game podcast pretty much every single week, and I'll try to keep making the videos because I think they're great. I love making them. I know you guys love watching them. And until next time, folks, bear down, and thank you so much for bearing with me.